beautiful bibliophiles, it's Nektaria. I hope you're having a great day, and today I'm so excited to talk about the best books I read during this goddamn year. So before we get to the actual list of my favorite books for the year, I just want to take like a minute, more like an eternity, to kind of refer to my friends, because if this list could contain books that aren't published, that aren't out yet in the world, and those books would be the books you're writing, like the books my amazing friends are writing, like this list would be very different if I could include the words that you wrote and so kindly and generously let me read before the rest of the world. Like, this list would be so different because, like, for example, if someone asked me, like, do you have a favorite short story that you read this year? I'd be like, dude, I have 4, but you know none of them because all of them were written by my loved ones, you know? If you've given me anything to read, you know that I've cherished it and I've appreciated it with my whole heart. And the fact that you gave me that to read and you trusted me with that, like, you don't know how much that means to me, and you can't understand how honored I feel that I got to read the amazing words that you wrote. I mean, maybe you're thinking honored, like, it's too much of a word, but that's how I felt. Like, I'm so thankful that I get to read what you write because, like, your characters and the stories that they go through are my favorite things that I read this year, and, like, they really speak to my heart, and I really love them, and, like, your characters are as much of my friends as you are, and I just cannot express in words how thankful I am. And whether you plan to get your stories out in the world eventually or whether you don't, I just want you to know that if they do get out in the world, I'm just going to be that bitch going around like, oh, that's your favorite book? Oh, well, guess what? My best friend wrote it, and it's my favorite book too. And when I was reading it for the first time, you were still in your freaking cradle, girl. Like, you know, I'm gonna be that bitch, okay? So you better get prepared for that already. And anyways, I just want you to know I love what you write so much, and your stories and characters mean the freaking world to me, and they're my favorite things in the world, and I just cannot express how proud of you I am, and how proud I think you should be of yourselves, and, like, you should give yourself some credit for what you write and what you do, because it's honestly so amazing. And anyways, I just, you know, before my heart just absolutely bursts from, like, my gratitude and love for you all, I just want to say that I'm giving you all my positive vibes and courage to keep being the creative people that you are, while also taking time for yourselves. And anyways, that's what I wanted to say. I just wanted to say that if I could include, like, your works in here, like the words that my loved ones and friends wrote, like, this list, well, would be so freaking different because you wrote my favorite things I've read this year, and I really wanted you to know that. I love you. Anyway, since I'm going to have to settle for the published works, okay, like, let's get to the actual list. This is going to be, I feel like it's like 10 books, maybe 9, not sure, and it's going to be like from 10 to 1, like top 1 being my most favorite, and like all of the other favorites leading up to that, I guess. But, like, just so you know, from now there is not one top 1. Like, I have 2 on top 1 because I've been thinking for a while now which one I want to be my favorite book of the year, and I honestly can't choose. Like, they're both very high up there and I just couldn't choose. First book I want to talk about is Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng, which I picked up from my local library back in February, and actually I was a bit reluctant to, because, like, it's adult literary fiction and that is a genre I wasn't, like, that much into. But my time to explore that genre was long due, so I decided to give this book a shot. Like, everyone knows that book, bestseller of everything, and I just feel like everyone has heard of this book being hyped, and to me it was really worth the hype. This is pretty much the story of 2 families. Like, there's this rich white family living in the suburbs, like the Richardsons, I think, something like that, and they rent this, like, little other house they have to a mother that comes to live with her daughter, like an artist and her daughter, Mia Warren and her daughter Pearl. And we see, like, the dynamics and the relationships that, like, develop between the members of the 2 families, and, like, how the rich white family treats the new family that comes in town, and it's a very interesting story. There's this other plot going on also with the adoption of a child, and we see what happens with that. It's very interesting. Like, the plot is very just mind-blowing because we follow this line of just constant tragic misunderstandings that lead to like a very oh my god ending. Like, the ending was just very whoa, oh my god, like I cried. I felt like it was quite emotional. But I feel like the greatest part about this book is like the message that it gives out about like morality and how we've came to like categorize things as like right and wrong and moral and immoral, and just how messed up our society is to think of some things as normal and some things as not normal. Like, that categorization is obviously very wrong, but we don't see that, and it just shows how, based on our lifestyle and the way we're brought up, we come to think that like, oh, our way of living our lives is normal, and like when other people choose to live their lives a different way, like there's obviously something wrong with that. And I feel like that book shows that very well. And like, you know, if you like this kind of story where there's like this rich goody white, mostly white family, and like the realization that they're not that perfect, or that like their definition of perfect is messed up, like comes and shakes them up, I feel like that's a book you should read. Like, it was one of the first books I read in the year. I read in February, and it had a lot of impact. Like, I feel like it was very powerful, and I would like to pick up the other book Celestine has written. I feel like it's called Everything I Never Told You, because the first several were just great. Next up is more of a classic. It's called The Book of Disquiet by Fernando Pessoa, writing as Bernardo Soares, if I'm not wrong. I hope I'm not wrong. So anyways, this book is just these guys' thoughts. That's all there is to it. Like, this guy reflecting on life and like the world, and yeah, that's it. There's nothing else to say about this book. Like, I just love that. This just goes on to prove my obsession with books that follow like characters reflecting on their life and having like very dark thoughts, like very deeply psychologically scary thoughts about life. And I cannot express why I love that, you know. I just do. Like, that's my thing, that's my cup of tea. I don't know, like, I vibe with that, you know. I don't know. And yeah, that's all I have to say about the book. The writing was amazing. I love the thoughts expressed in it. Like, I found them very relatable, and sometimes I was like scared with how relatable they were, because a lot of them were like very dark, just like deeply psychological, you know, like whoa, you know. Anyways, that's all I have to say about it. Next up is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I love that book so much. The fact that I don't own any of the books I've mentioned so far, because I've ordered all of them, is a bit sad, but like, we'll get to that. Anyways, Mexican Gothic was absolutely lovely. Like, I don't read that much horror, but I was glad that one of the like first horror books I read, I suppose, like I've read Stephen King and all, but like, just that, you know. So the fact that I read Mexican Gothic and really enjoyed it, it gave me, you know, a good feeling about reading more horror, made me very happy. And I'm so glad it got Best Horror of the Year for the Goodreads Awards. Like, that made me super happy. This follows Noemi, who gets a letter from her cousin, and her cousin sounds like super like disturbed in the letter, and she's expressing like very weird thoughts about the new house that she lives in, like her new husband's house. So she calls Noemi to come and like help her. Like, she's feeling a bit ill, and she wants Noemi there. And Noemi goes to the house, and what follows after that is very gothic. Like, the landscape is so gothic, and all these things happening are like, the more you get to the end, like the more bizarre it is. And like, some people said like it was a slow-paced book, and like I didn't see that. Like, I kind of did, but I didn't mind. Like, it built up this great atmosphere, and like, oh my gosh, it just got so like disturbing and eerie the more it just moved on. It was like, is there a logical explanation for all this like weird things going on? Because like, there was this like subtle creepy atmosphere, and like, what is happening? And oh my gosh, it was just like so amazing to read. Like, I feel all the people who read Mexican Gothic are now like, mushrooms, like, we have trust issues with mushrooms now, you know, and like, I ate mushrooms for the first time after reading this yesterday, and I was like, these are really good, like, I enjoy them, but also was like, you know? Anyways, there's just some very, like, bizarre, eerie, weird scenes that I absolutely loved. Like, I thought it was just so, you know, innovative with those scenes, and I just absolutely love that book, you know? I'm so glad I read a horror book and loved it, you know? So happy. Then I have 2 poetry collections that came out this year, and I've already talked about them a lot, so I'm just gonna like try and be quick. They were both by the same author, Musmira Hampara, wrote Poses and 3:21 AM, and I got to read arcs of both, and I just love them so much. Like, I'm a bit reluctant to read like modern day poetry because they do that thing. Oh my gosh, I've talked about how much I dislike this thing so many times, but like, you know, they just write prose and then they like put a space bar every 2 words and suddenly it's poetry, and just like, I don't like that, you know, I just don't like that. But Mushmi's poetry was very close to classic poetry that I enjoy. I loved her writing very much. I loved her beautiful metaphors, and I loved the things that she was like exploring with her poetry, like especially 03:21 AM, 03:21. Anyways, I cannot read titles anymore. Anyways, 3:21 AM specifically talks a lot about like mental illness, so trigger warning for that. And it's very sensitive though, and it's like, you know, so just, you know, sad but also beautiful to read. And Posies has like a greater variety of subjects that it explores. Like, we go from like mental health again to feminism to humans' relations to nature, and they were all just so beautiful, and I absolutely love these 2 poetry collections. Oh, I actually own a physical copy of this next book. Let me go grab it. The Light Between Oceans by Emil Stedman, which follows Tom, who's a lighthouse keeper, and his wife Izzy, who lives with him on this tiny island with the lighthouse thingy. I'm so professional with this. Anyways, and it's just like, at first we explore like how much they want to have children, and then one day like this boat washes up on their island. I think the island was called Janus, and in the boat there's a dead man and a crying baby, and they have to choose what they're gonna do with the baby. And what follows is just, oh my god, you know, it's so emotional. Like, I cried so much reading this book, and you know, it was all about like parents left to their child, which was not a subject I have explored much in the past, because it was like, oh, you know, I'm 18, I don't care about parenthood. Like, I still don't care about parenthood. Like, I'm just like, all of my friends like seeing babies and they're like, oh, they're so cute, and me like, okay, that's too tiny and creepy, like, I don't want it. But anyways, like, the way this was written and like the language and the writing was so just beautiful and heartbreaking, and I mean, just the way that they love from parent to child was expressed like at some part of the book. Like, they're talking about like they miss their child, and they understand that from like, you know how you have your leg and there's like a child sitting like on your knee, on your leg and stuff, and the child wasn't there, and they were missing the weight that would be on their leg if their child was on it. And it was like, oh my god, like, that's deep, like, that's whoa, you know. Anyways, it wasn't like anything I had read like to be that emotional about that sort of subject, you know. And the morality explored in this is also like on another level, because like there are like bad guys and good guys, like if you take it on like a very subjective scale. But like, once you know the characters, like the bad people are like the good people, and like, anyways, I cannot explain this in a way that you'll understand, but this made me very emotional. I was heartbroken, but it was absolutely beautiful and I adored it. Next up is another classic. Like, I'm gonna have a couple of classics on this list, and that is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, and I was so excited to read this year. because I had only read like short stories and fairy tales of Oscar Wilde before, but I was like so in love with his writing and like his aesthetic and his vibe, and I just really wanted to read that book. So it's obviously like the very known story of Dorian Gray, a beautiful young man who gets his portrait done, and he just keeps admiring it and like how beautiful he looks in the portrait, and he just wishes that, you know, instead of him, you know, getting old and having to deal with the ugliness that old age brings, like he could stay young forever like the portrait does, and the portrait should get old instead of him. And obviously that wish coming true has a lot of like consequences and leads him to get very immoral with stuff. So the plot is like clearly on another level, like the concept is so like intriguing and like makes you think of stuff, like so aestheticism, like both the writing and plot of this book is like aestheticism, you know, but like it's aestheticism also like dealing with morality, and I love that mix, I just love it. But anyways, let's not mess around here, you know, I love the writing of Oscar Wilde in this, and it was like it's just so good, you know, like every other sentence in this book is like a gorgeous quote that I just had to underline and like read many times, you know, and like absorbing it and like staring at it forever, because like the quotes in this about everything, about like society, like the way Oscar Wilde is being so ironic with like society in his days, and the fact that that society hasn't changed nowadays, it's just wow, you know, like we love ourselves some sassy Oscar Wilde, we do, he's a role model of sassiness, he just is. And anyway, so many quotes on so many subjects, and like they were all so freaking gorgeous. His writing was so freaking gorgeous. I want to read everything else that guy has written. I just want to. So yeah, The Picture of Dorian Gray is very high up there on the list of my favorite books of the year. Next up is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This book was recommended to me by one of my best friends, Mary. She absolutely loves the book, so I was like, okay, I have to check this out eventually. And oh my god, I'm so glad I did. I absolutely loved it. I can't tell you exactly what this book's about. Like, I feel like everyone knows it, but like, I can't actually explain what it's about without giving away like stuff. So this is obviously about a circus, the Night Circus, and we like follow characters. I like every book we follow characters, but like I cannot explain this in a way that I don't give stuff away. We follow Marco and we follow Celia and a lot of other just amazing characters, and just what I love about this is like the whimsical, magical atmosphere of these. Like, this is like the kind of magic I like, you know, not the very complicated like stuff with all the names and the categories. Like, this is more of my alley. So I love the atmosphere of this and the world building, and like the characters obviously have a very special place in my heart because they're so amazing, and the writing was also like so well done and so beautiful, and some of these quotes were like lovely. And I'm just so interested in reading The Starless Sea after reading this, and oh my gosh, this just got a very special place in my heart and I absolutely loved it. So the favorite book of the year is two books, and like when I read the first one of them, like around March, April I think, I was like, okay, this is my best book of the year. And then, you know, in the following months, nothing changed that. And that was still my favorite book of the year. But then just in December, I read this next book. And I was like, yeah, okay, that's a serious antagonist. And, you know, I just have been thinking for the past weeks, like, which one is, like, my favorite one? But they're, like, favorites for different reasons. And I just could not choose. So they're both my favorite. And I'm just going to talk about them in the order that I read them. So the first book is Solita by Vladimir Nabokov. So first, the huge disclaimer, like, liking Lolita does not mean I support pedophilia in any way, obviously. Like, I don't believe I still have to make that statement. Like, obviously, that's a very wrong thing, and I don't support that in any freaking way. Like, obviously. Also, liking Lolita does not mean one has daddy issues, and I just feel like even the phrase daddy issues has gotten like quite toxic, and like this whole daddy issues culture is a bit like weird. Like, I get how it's like close to people's hearts, and I don't want to ruin that. So anyways, let's just leave it to that. So, like, liking Lolita does not mean you support pedophilia in any way. Does not mean you just have daddy issues because, like, oh, I'm like, oh, my favorite book of the year was Lolita, and they were like, oh, she has daddy issues, and I was like, no, I don't happen to have daddy issues, I'm sorry. And obviously, I just want people to understand that, like, the sexualization of young girls and the sexual harassment of young girls is obviously not something promoted by Lolita and just Vladimir Nabokov's writing or anything. Obviously, like, I need people to understand that the sexualization of young girls is not something Lolita, like the book itself, caused, but the way this book was taken advantage of by modern day pop culture and modern day media. Like, they took a great piece of classic literature and they made it into this whole Lolita culture, and this whole Lolita culture has nothing to do with Lolita the book itself. Like, it's a very different thing promoted by modern day media and pop culture that has led to the, like, promotion of the sexualization of young girls, which is obviously a horrible thing, and we're all against that. It's one of the, like, biggest problems in our modern day community and has to be, like, resolved. Like, it's one of the worst things ever. Like, it's just a very hard issue, obviously, but I just want people to understand, like, that is that horrible, disgusting thing of sexualization of young girls is something promoted by modern day media and pop culture, who took advantage of the book and turned it to this whole very toxic Lolita culture, which has nothing to do with the book itself. And I just feel like people need to understand that. So after this disclaimer, I hope people have understood how serious the problem of the sexualization of underage girls and young women in general is, and like how we should all do our best to treat that problem, like when we see it around us, and like, you know, just point that out and like just point out how just absolutely horrible and wrong that is. And I hope people have also understood that liking Lolita does not make someone like a weirdo. I feel like now I can talk about like actually why I really love this book. So I love this book, like, obviously for the writing, like the writing of this is on another level. Like, I want to read anything else like Vladimir Nabokov has written. Like, I feel like he's written a lot of things and I want to read them all, because like the writing in this one was just so freaking beautiful, you know, so gorgeous. And like, I mean, it takes like the lyrical beautiful writing to another level. Like, I cannot even express in words like how beautiful those words made me feel. Like, I understand obviously like they are words describing like a very hard topic and like a very disgusting and messed up situation, but like I feel like that's what he wants to prove, like the way Humbert like put his appreciation of Lolita's like beauty over everything and over every sense of morality, the same way like Vladimir Nabokov's book like puts writing first, and like you read all these gorgeous quotes about love, and if you take them out of context they're like the most romantic thing you've ever read, and if you put them in context they're like super disturbing and disgusting because they're like from Humbert to Lolita, and like that makes you feel very messed up for like enjoying those words. But it's not about the words in the plot themselves. I feel like it's about the writing like as a known entity on its own, and like just about how gorgeous that writing can get. And I feel like that's the point of it. That's the point of like reading that and feeling that like some of my favorite quotes about like love and romantic love come from a story that is so, that describes like such a messed up situation. And I feel like that is the beauty of the book. Now to the last and like co-favorite of the year is no other than The Secret History by Donna Tartt. And I feel like these people, like, I mean, this book, I'm sorry, like this book is either like very much loved by everyone or very much hated by everyone. Like, I don't feel this like a mid situation, like everyone's like, oh, this is my favorite book, or like, how can people like that, is so messed up. And to those of you who have read it and like thought that it was messed up, like, I can say nothing to you. Like, normally I would like try to like, oh yeah, I understand why you show it like that, but also that, that, and that. But like in this case, like this book, if someone came up to me and they were like, you're so crazy, why would you like this book? I'd be like, yes, you're right, yes, you're right. There's nothing I can say to make things better for myself, because the reason why I like such a messed up story cannot be explained through logic. So there are obviously no wrong or right opinions about books, but if they were, the right opinion to have about this book would be to hate it, because like, it's insane. Like, the characters are all so unlikable and messed up, and like murderous, weird, rich white kids, and like the obvious answer is to hate this book, but like I loved it. I cannot explain why in logic, but I loved it. So anyways, this book starts with like this group of like kids studying like classic like studies, like literature studies. I don't know how to call these studies anyways. Ancient Greek and Latin and stuff, in this like prestigious college. And like they are the group of like 6 like people, 6 college students that are in the same like very elite ancient Greek class together. And the book starts with one of them being murdered by the other 5. And it's obviously like very weird when you first read it, because they're like, oh, they're a group of friends, why would this happen? And then the rest of the book you like see how it got to that and the aftermath of that. And at first I was like so intrigued by the plot, and like, you have to understand, like, this book is getting me into dark academia. I'm just going to be turning into a dark academia entity from now on, because the aesthetic of this and the atmosphere was just wow, like it was great. Like, I love this kind of like vibe of like this group of messed up people, like, and their toxic friendship, and like all they do together is like judge everything that happens around them and read ancient Greek to each other. And I was like, whoa, you know, I love that. I don't know, I just love that. And anyways, like at first I was loving it, but then at like, this is around 600 pages, and at like 400 pages, like you get why the murder happened and you get the aftermath of that. And after that, it's just you follow the characters like just farther on, and you know, it kind of loses like the point, but the writing keeps on being great, and the atmosphere and aesthetic keep on being like so great dark academia stuff going on. And you know, it just, you love it. Like, you don't love it, I love it, but I loved it so much, like I can't explain why. I just can't. I just feel like it's a great critique to like educated people sometimes not like acting the same way you'd expect them, you know, like they've read all these things about like virtue and morality, and they're acting all murderous and crazy, and like, I don't know, I cannot explain. Like, I just love this book. Like, the characters are just bastards, and they're like drunk and high, like 99% of the book, and like they do everything in the name of like ancient Greek culture, and it's so freaking messed up, but I loved it. Like, I just loved it. Like, the memes on Tumblr for this are on another level, and like they just make my love for this book even stronger. The characters are obviously like all super messed up, and like you can't like any of the characters. Like, you can love them, but you like hate them still, you know what I mean? Like Henry, everyone has a crush on Henry. You should not have a crush on Henry, but I do have a crush on Henry as well, and like I cannot explain that, but like, it's just Henry, y'all. You gotta love to hate him, and gotta hate to love him. And anyways, I cannot explain just why I love this book. I just did. Like, if you want to like judge me for liking this book, like, I'll accept it with my whole heart, because I judge myself for liking this book because it's so freaking messed up. But this was my favorite book of the year, as well as Solita by Vladimir Nabokov, so judge me all you want, I'm open to critique. So those were my favorite books of this goddamn year that's finally over. Like, the next year it's going to be just as bad, but like, let's pretend we don't already know that. Anyways, like, are you disturbed with my choices? Like, I am too, but I don't know, I just love this for some reason. Anyways, like, I'd love to hear what your favorite books that you read in 2020 were down in the comment section. And like, we're almost at Christmas, so I hope you have a very, very Merry Christmas. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and don't put anyone in danger now with the global pandemic going on. And have a great new year. Like, I hope it's just a better year for everyone, because, like, and for the planet and the world, honestly, and for humanity to be better itself. So anyways, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon with a new video. Bye.